Good morning. I hope you're well today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it as always. We are live across a few different places this morning once again. So please do give me a hello in the comments. Let me know that you are tuning in wherever you happen to be watching today. I would love to know that you are here with me. It is always helpful to know who is watching and who is tuning in. And if you are watching the replay, do give me a hashtag replay in the comments and let me know that you are here, because I will loop back and say hello to you later on. So today I want to speak about something that came up in a conversation just this morning. And it is something that does come up from time to time in conversation because it can be quite confusing for most people to actually understand what this is. And so that's why I wanted to cover it today. And that is, what is the difference between accounting and bookkeeping? What are each of them actually? And are there any overlaps? Where does one start and one end? What does that look like? And this can often come off the back of conversations as well, of people saying, can I do my own bookkeeping? The short answer to that is yes, by the way. People can actually do their own bookkeeping, but often people don't actually understand what that actually means. And so that's why I want to cover that with you today. So give me a hello in the comments if you are tuning in. I would love to know that you are here. I would love to say hello to you. So please do let me know that you are watching. Now, for those of you who've stumbled across this, my name is Annette Ferguson. I am CEO of Annette & Co, UK-based accounting firm. I am a chartered accountant, certified profit first professional and financial strategist, and we help business owners take home more money from their business for them and their families to enjoy. And today I want to cover off accounting and bookkeeping. What is the difference? So first of all, I want to be clear on what bookkeeping is not. Bookkeeping is not setting up your bank feeds in Xero and then ticking the green button that says, okay, okay, okay. That is a part of bookkeeping, and that is a stage of bookkeeping, but that is not bookkeeping in its entirety. That is a small part of what is involved with bookkeeping. Because ultimately, what bookkeeping is bookkeeping is taking the original source records, whether those be receipts, bills, invoices, bank transactions, payroll data, loan information, taking the source records for a business and organizing and recording those source records accurately. And so whilst one part of that is uploading your bills and receipts into Xero and matching those against the transactions in the bank by ticking the green button, that is only part of the recording of the source records accurately. So, for example, common mistakes that we see are if people are receiving money in through Stripe, for example, they will put that whole amount to sales, except it needs to be broken out into the sales amount and the Stripe fees. Other common things that we see are when people are paying themselves as directors from the business, those transactions can end up all over the place rather than being coded to the place that is relevant, whether that be whether that be a director's loan account, whether that be a dividend, whether that be wages payable, wherever that might be. We often see as well when people are paying HMRC, they get put to the wrong places. Those transactions often get put to somewhere in the balance sheet, P&L, rather than into the balance sheet. So when you are doing the ticking in Xero, there are places that people typically stumble and make mistakes on, but then there are also places where people will typically just omit a stage. For example, like the Stripe example I gave, making loan repayments can also be one. So people will book the loan repayment, but they won't actually split out the interest, which is tax deductible. So you're actually losing out there when it comes to the the tax position too. So like I say, bookkeeping is taking the source records and it is making sure that they are sorted correctly, organized and recorded correctly in your bookkeeping software. That is bookkeeping, and that can and usually does involve things like journal entries. It involves things like doing the bank reconciliations as well. Again, often we see people who do their own bookkeeping and they haven't actually gone through, they've ticked the stuff in Xero. That's not a bank reconciliation, that's matching, but they haven't actually gone through to the bank reconciliation reports, for example, and run those to make sure that the bank reconciliation is accurate. So all these things that I'm speaking about, they are all part of bookkeeping. So you can see that it makes up significantly more than just the ticking. So understanding that that is all part of bookkeeping. And bookkeeping, when you have done bookkeeping accurately, you should be able to look at a profit and loss account and balance sheet and for them to be accurate and correct. That is where bookkeeping gets you to. It gets you to an accurate and correct profit and loss and balance sheet in your software. And that is where bookkeeping essentially finishes and accounting starts. Because accounting is the interpretation and presentation of that financial data, including for the purposes of things like tax returns. So, for example, an accountant may take your profit and loss account and your balance sheet, and an accountant may say, oh, okay, actually, for tax purposes, we need to put these entries in. But the accountant won't be looking at every transaction that has happened in the bookkeeping software to ensure it's in the right place and it's treated correctly. That is the role of the bookkeeper. So I hope that is making sense so far in the distinction between the two roles. And somebody needs to do both these roles in a business. In reality, it can be the business owner that does everything. There's no legal requirement for a business to have an accountant. If you wanted to do your own bookkeeping, tax returns, submissions, you could do all of that yourself. You could also do none of those jobs yourself and have somebody who is professionally qualified doing them. Because not only do you get professionally qualified accountants, you get professionally qualified bookkeepers. You get people who have trained for 2-3 years to be a qualified bookkeeper, and they understand and know the process of bookkeeping and how to do that accurately and how to do that so that the records are correct. They are also typically insured and typically registered with HMRC as anybody who does bookkeeping is required to be. So those are the distinctions between the two. Now, most accounting firms will also offer bookkeeping services because they will typically have on-staff bookkeepers that do this for their clients as well. Sometimes people will choose to just go to a separate bookkeeping firm to get their bookkeeping done. Excuse me. Typically, you will pay less if you get it all done in-house with one place. Not always, but typically there will be some synergies there that will work for you. And because your accountant will, be able to liaise much closer with the bookkeeper, there can be some wins there in terms of your tax, how things are working, and all that kind of stuff. Not always, but typically that is what will happen. So I hope that is giving you a bit more clarity around what bookkeeping is and what the role of a bookkeeper is, and where the bookkeeper needs to get the records to in order to transition neatly and cleanly over to the role of the accountant. Of course, if the accountant receives information that is inaccurate or incomplete, then the output from the accountant is also going to end up being inaccurate or incomplete, whether that is around the tax situation, whether that's around your filings, whether that's around interpretation of how the business is performing. it's important to have accurate bookkeeping information to feed in to be able to interpret correctly. I'm sure that makes sense to you. It's one of those, rubbish in, rubbish out situations that if the beginning part has problems, then the end part will also have problems as well. And so that is how accounting and bookkeeping play off against each other. That is where one stops and the other begins. They carry on from each other. And as I said, both are necessary in a business. Both need to be accurate so that the results make sense. And ideally, both should be done by somebody who is competent and able to perform that job to a standard that is required in order for the information to be correct. So, like I say, you can do these things yourself, absolutely. If you get some training, if you learn how to do them, then that's absolutely fine. But if you do your own bookkeeping and then you hand it to an accountant who then notices that there are mistakes and errors and problems with the bookkeeping, it is likely that you will be charged to have those fixed and corrected, because the accountant can't do their work with inaccurate information. So either they will say to you, the bookkeeping is incorrect, can you fix that, or we will charge you this to fix it. Some people do that. Some accounting firms will just fix it and then charge you if they charge on an hourly model anyway. And some accounting firms will not make the changes or highlight their problems. They will just say, well, you have told me the bookkeeping has been done, therefore I will rely on this data to produce the accounts. And they may be not correct, but you're telling me that you've done it, and therefore I'm taking your word on that. Yeah. So those are the three situations that you may find yourself in if you do your own bookkeeping and then you have an accountant doing the accounts. So it's just to make you aware that situation, any of those situations can exist, so that you're clear on what may potentially happen. So if you're doing your own bookkeeping, it's worth clarifying with your accountant which one of these three methods they use, so that you can understand whether you will be asked to correct stuff, which you may or may not know how to do, whether you will be charged for them correcting things, or whether they will essentially not correct anything and rely on you having done the accurate bookkeeping yourself, because that's the role that you have taken in the business. So that is something to clarify. As I say, if you're working with an accountant on this stuff to do the tax stuff and the accounting work, making sure that you understand how that bookkeeping data is going to be treated when you hand that over to them is really important. So I hope that helps clarify things, helps you understand where you stand with bookkeeping, whether you're choosing to do it yourself or you're choosing for someone else to do that on your behalf. We do all of these things for our clients. We do the bookkeeping and the accounting and tax work as well. So if it is an area that you need help with, that you have realized that maybe things are not quite as accurate as they should be in your business, or that you want them to be in your business, then I would happily love to have a discussion with you on that. Please drop me a note, put me a DM, make a note in the comments. You can head over to our website, annetteandco.co.uk, ANNETTEANDCO.co.uk, and get in touch that way as well. And we'd be happy to help and support you with any of these things if you need the support in your business, or just chat through whether we can help you with any of this. So I hope that's been helpful today and useful in understanding the distinction between bookkeeping and accounting, where one stops and the other ends, and what both actually are. I will be back again, as always, tomorrow with another live session. I look forward to hearing from you, seeing you then. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. I know your time is incredibly precious, so thank you for spending some of it with me today. And I will see you again tomorrow. Take care, everyone.